Good afternoon. Oh, I have my funky glasses. Shoot, darn. Oh, well, you can deal with that. How's everybody? Good afternoon. I'm Kristen. I'm the library director for the Island Free Library on Block Island. This is an Island Free Library adult short story program. I emphasize adults usually, but I don't think I need to today. I pre-read the story. Sometimes I read swears and about sex and drugs and rock and roll and, so I like to emphasize adult, but this story is probably okay for everybody. Let's see. It's Thursday, April 29th, 2021. We have one more day of April. And then it's May, and I live on Block Island with some of you, and we can feel that it's May, can't we? We can feel it coming on strong. I walked to work at 9 a.m. this morning, fairly early in winter, not much activities going on at 9 when I walk to work because, the 8 o'clock workers are already on their job sites and the school is already open. At 8. So when I go out at 9, people are kind of, if anybody's going where they're going, they're gone. And that's that. But not now at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. It was busy. It was busy on the road. There's construction going on. There was people talking on the road, yakking with me, yakking with each other. Totally different ball game today, this last Thursday of April 2021. So we're feeling that. We're feeling it get going. I think May, we usually feel it in May. And then in June, it's a little bit normal again, slightly normal. Things have gotten open by then and are just sort of open a little because it's not crazy busy kind of thing. But we'll see what this year brings. We never know. Let's see what this year brings. So that's like the Block Island update from my perspective today. And, I hope everything's good in your perspective, in your part of town, in your part of the country. I hope things are going well. I'm waiting here for my dad. Hello, Dad. Where are you? Hello. I picked a story for my dad today because it's about pirates. It's about Captain Kidd, and I thought he might enjoy that. And I picked it out of this very large volume of Washington Irving, The Complete Tales of Washington Irving. And so I just read this editor's note here, which says, let's see if I can find that editor's note. These tales, there's my dad. Hi, Dad. Okay. These tales have been taken from the author's revised and collected works as published in the autograph edition, issued in 40 volumes by Putnam Sons in 1895. So they collected Washington Irving stories and published that in 1895. It goes on to say the tales are presented in the chronological sequence of the respective first editions and in their sequence within each particular work. So in the table of contents, you can see there are, like subtitles, or I guess that was the collection's title, Buckthorne and His Friends, The Money Diggers, that kind of thing. That was originally published in 1895. This Complete Tales of Washington Irving, edited with an introduction by Charles Nider, was published by Doubleday and Company in 1975. And Washington Irving was born in 1783. So all that to say is we're pretty good on copyright here. We can pretty much read these stories. We're allowed. Maybe I'll just read all these stories to you. I don't know. Sometimes the older works are harder for me to read as they contain language that's no longer appropriate or that we use that's correct. the idea of what was happening historically is only Washington Irving's perspective, or what he was being told to use and was correct. So, that can be problematic, right? Sometimes older works can be problematic. So I offer that to you as you listen to this. A few things I didn't like, but I'm still going to read this story, despite the few things I didn't like. How's that for an introduction? Few things I don't like, as if I'm the boss. But I am the boss. No, there are some things that I would consider problematic. You may not even hear them. Let's see what happens. But tune in, stay with me. This is not a particularly long story, and I want to say that I picked it again for my dad. It was a Captain Kidd and a pirate, and wait till you see what happens in this. Wait till you see. All right, here we go. Washington Irving, Kidd the Pirate. In old times, just after the territory of the New Netherlands had been wrested from the hands of their high mightinesses, the Lord States General of Holland, by King Charles II, and while it was as yet an unquiet state, the province was a great resort of random adventurers, loose livers, and all that class of haphazard fellows who live by their wits and dislike the old-fashioned restraint of law and gospel. Among these, the foremost were the buccaneers. These were rovers of the deep, who perhaps in times of war had been educated in those schools of piracy, the privateers, but having once tasted the sweets of plunder, had ever retained a hankering after it. There is but a slight step from the privateersman to the pirate. Both fight for the love of plunder, only that the latter is the bravest, as he dares both the enemy and the gallows. But in whatever school they had been taught, the buccaneers that kept about the English colonies were daring fellows, and made sad work in times of peace among the Spanish settlements and Spanish merchantmen. The easy access to the harbor of the Manhattoes, the number of hiding places about its waters, and the laxity of its scarcely organized government made it a great rendezvous of the pirates, where they might dispose of their booty and concert new depredations. As they brought home with them wealthy lading of all kinds, the luxuries of the tropics, and the sumptuous spoils of the Spanish provinces, and disposed of them with the proverbial carelessness of freebooters, they were welcome visitors to the thrifty traders of the Manhattoes. Crews of these desperadoes, therefore, the renegades of every country and every clime, might be seen swaggering in the open day about the streets of the little burg, elbowing its quiet mynheers, trafficking away their rich, outlandish plunder at half or quarter price to the wary merchant, and then squandering their prize money in taverns, drinking, gambling, singing, swearing, shouting, and astounding the neighborhood with midnight brawl and ruffian revelry. At length, these excesses rose to such a height as to become a scandal to the provinces, and to call loudly for the interposition of government. Measures were accordingly taken to put a stop to the wildly extended evil, and to ferret this vermin brood out of the colonies. Among the agents employed to execute this purpose was the notorious Captain Kidd. He had long been an equivocal character, one of those nondescript animals of the ocean that are neither fish, flesh, nor fowl. He was somewhat of a trader, something more of a smuggler, with a considerable dash of the picaroon. He had traded for many years among the pirates in a little rakish, mosquito-built vessel that could run into all kinds of waters. He knew all their haunts and lurking places, was always looking about on mysterious voyages, and was as busy as Mother Carey's chicken in a storm. This nondescript personage was pitched upon by the government as the very man to hunt the pirates by sea, upon the good old maxim of setting a rogue to catch a rogue, or as otters are sometimes used to catch their cousins German, the fish. Kidd accordingly sailed for New York in 1695 in a gallant vessel called the Adventure Galley, well armed and duly commissioned. On arriving at his old haunts, however, he shipped his crew on new terms, enlisted a number of his old comrades, lads of the knife and the pistol, and then set sail for the East. Instead of cruising against pirates, he turned pirate himself, steered to the Madeiras, to Bonavista, and to Madagascar, and cruised about the entrance of the Red Sea. Here, among other maritime robberies, he captured a rich Quechua merchantman manned by Moors, though commanded by an Englishman. Kidd would fain have passed this off for a worthy exploit, as being a kind of crusade against the infidels. But government had long since lost all relish for such Christian triumphs. After roaming the seas, trafficking his prizes, and changing from ship to ship, Kidd had the hardihood to return to Boston, laden with booty, with a crew of swaggering companions at his heels. Times, however, were changed. The buccaneers could no longer show a whisker in the colonies without impunity. The new governor, Lord Bellamont, had signalized himself by his zeal in extirpating these offenders, and was doubly exasperated against Kidd, having been instrumental in appointing him to the trust which he had betrayed. No sooner, therefore, did he show himself in Boston than the alarm was given of his reappearance, and measures were taken to arrest this cutpurse of the ocean. The daring character which Kidd had acquired, however, and the desperate fellows who followed like bulldogs at his heels, caused a little delay in his arrest. He took advantage of this, it is said, to bury the greater part of his treasures, and then carried a high head about the streets of Boston. He even attempted to defend himself when arrested, but was secured and thrown into prison with his followers. Such was the formidable character of this pirate and his crew, and that it was thought advisable to dispatch a frigate to bring them to England. Great exertions were made to screen him from justice, but in vain. He and his comrades were tried, condemned, and hanged at Execution Dock in London. Kidd died hard, for the rope with which he was first tied up broke with his weight, and he tumbled to the ground. He was tied up a second time, and more effectually. Hence came, doubtless, the story of Kidd's having a charmed life, and that he had to be twice hanged. Such is the main outline of Kidd's history, but it has given birth to an innumerable progeny of traditions. The report of his having buried great treasures of gold and jewels before his arrest set the brains of all the good people along the coast in a ferment. There were rumors on rumors of great sums of money found here and there, sometimes in one part of the country, sometimes in another, of coins with Moorish inscriptions, doubtless the spoils of his eastern prizes, but which the common people looked upon with superstitious awe, regarding the Moorish letters as diabolical or magical characters. Some reported the treasure to have been buried in solitary, unsettled places about Plymouth and Cape Cod, but by degrees, various other parts, not only on the eastern coast, but along the shores of the Sound and even of Manhattan and Long Island, were gilded by these rumors. In fact, the rigorous measures of Lord Bellomont spread sudden consternation among the buccaneers in every part of the provinces. They secreted their money and jewels in lonely, out-of-the-way places about the wild shores of the rivers and seacoast, and dispersed themselves over the face of the country. The hand of justice prevented many of them from returning to regain their buried treasures, which remained, and remain probably to this day, objects of enterprise for the money digger. This is the cause of those frequent reports of trees and rocks bearing mysterious marks, supposed to indicate the spots where treasures lay hidden, and many have been the ransackings after the pirates' booty. In all the stories which once abounded of these enterprises, the devil played a conspicuous part. Either he was conciliated by ceremonies and invocations, or some solemn compact was made with him. Still, he was ever prone to play some slippery trick. Some would dig so far as to come to an iron chest, when some baffling circumstance was sure to take place. Either the earth would fall in and fill up the pit, or some direful noise or apparition would frighten the party from the place. Sometimes the devil himself would appear and bear off the prize when within their very grasp. And if they revisited the place the next day, not a trace would be found of their labors of the preceding night. All these rumors, however, were extremely vague and for a long time tantalized without gratifying my curiosity. There is nothing in this world so hard to get at as truth, and there is nothing in this world but truth that I care for. I sought among all my favorite sources of authentic information the oldest inhabitants, and particularly the old Dutch wives of the province. But though I flatter myself that I am better versed than most men in the curious history of my native province, yet for a long time my inquiries were unattended with any substantial result. At length it happened that, one calm day in the latter part of summer, I was relaxing myself from the toils of severe study by a day's amusement in fishing in those waters which had been the favorite resort of my boyhood. I was in company with several worthy burghers of my native city, among whom were more than one illustrious member of the corporation, whose names, did I care to mention them, would do honor to my humble page. Our sport was indifferent. The fish did not bite freely, and we frequently changed our fishing ground without bettering our luck. We were at length anchored close enough under a ledge of rocky coast on the eastern side of the Isle of Manhattan. It was still a warm day. The stream whirled and dimpled by us without a wave or even a ripple, and everything was so calm and quiet that it was almost startling when the kingfisher would pitch himself from the branch of some high tree, and after suspending himself for a moment in the air, take his aim, would souse into the smooth water after his prey. While we were lolling in our boat, half drowsy with the warm stillness of the day and the dullness of our sport, one of our party, a worthy alderman, was overtaken by a slumber, and as he dozed, suffered the sinker of his drop line to lie upon the bottom of the river. On waking, he found he had caught something of importance from the weight. On drawing it to the surface, we were much surprised to find it a long pistol of very curious and outlandish fashion, which, from its rusted condition and its stock being worm-eaten and covered with barnacles, appeared to have lain a long time under water. The unexpected appearance of this document of warfare occasioned much speculation among my Pacific companions. One supposed it to have fallen there during the Revolutionary War. Another, from the peculiarity of its fashion, attributed it to the voyagers in the earliest days of the settlement, perchance to the renowned Adrian Block, who explored the Sound and discovered Block Island, since so noted for its cheese. But a third, after regarding it for some time, pronounced it to be of veritable Spanish workmanship. I'll warrant, he said, if this pistol could talk, it would tell strange stories of hard fights among the Spanish dons. I have no doubt, but it is a relic of the buccaneers of old times. Who knows, but it belonged to Kidd himself. Ah, that Kidd was a resolute fellow, cried an old iron-faced Cape Cod whaler. There's a fine old song about him, all to the tune of, my name is Captain Kidd, as I sailed, and then it tells about how he gained the devil's good graces by burying the Bible. I had the Bible in my hand as I sailed, and I buried it in the sand as I sailed. Kidd the Pirate by Washington Irving. Fun little Block Island reference there. Who knew we were famous for our cheese? Of course, what I find problematic with that story is the discovery of Block Island. Of course, we know it wasn't discovered. There were native inhabitants here, indigenous people on the land. When Adrian Block arrived, it was not discovered by him. I also have some reservations about using the word Moors, Moorish, Moor. As I've traveled to Morocco and sort of grilled my tour guide on that, it's a yucky slang. It's not one that we would use today if we really understood what it meant. It's a bad slang, Moorish. The people from that part of the world have, accurate words to describe their culture and their heritage. Moors are slangs. That's slang. That's my lesson for today. Thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed that story. I have to say that it follows into the next story. There's another Captain Kidd story in this collection by Washington Irving, and maybe we'll get to it. We'll see. But for today, I hope you enjoyed the pirate reminiscences. And I've heard people tell story of how Captain Kidd's booty is here on Block Island, which is why I was sort of drawn to that story initially. I have to say, between that and my father knowing he'd like a pirate story and me being curious about it, and there it was, this idea that Captain Kidd was lurking, and he and his privateers and buccaneers were burying things in lots of places. So maybe right here on Block Island as well. I think there have been excavations of, Spanish and, gosh, now I'm going to say it, Moorish relics. I'm not sure, African relics maybe. Anyway, fun things to think about on this Thursday afternoon. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another short story. Thanks for coming. Bye.